What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Hobby Hotline Overtime, the new every Tuesday night show at 9 p.m. An extension, of course, of Hobby Hotline. We just wanted to bring more content to you. So here we are with Hobby Hotline Overtime, and this is episode 99. I can't believe it, but episode 99 of Hobby Hotline. So, of course, this Saturday being episode 100 is pretty crazy. But for those that I'm sure that have seen the show before, my name is Drew, or the DH, but really excited here to welcome two of our brand new hosts to the show. And they are, of course, Mr. Bo, 1 Million Cubs Project. How's it going, man?
Hello. It's great to be on here. Great to be on the panel.
Great to have you here. And then also, you guys know him, I'm sure, from NASCAR radio and everything, but Jason Dean Martin. What's up, buddy?
Not much, man. How are you? Glad to be part of it.
Yeah, man, it's been a while. Glad to have you guys on the show. Glad to expand the horizon a little bit. So welcome, everybody, to the show. As always, just because it's overtime, just because it's a different night and hour doesn't mean it's a different show. So, as always, we would love it if you guys would call in and join the show. If you have any questions, comments, anything whatsoever that you'd like to talk about when it comes to the hobby, if you agree, disagree, no matter what it is, please feel free to call in and join the show. It doesn't have to be video. You can do it as audio, any way you'd like it. Just click that link. It's very, very simple, but please call in and join the show. We would love to have you as a guest. But guys, it's been a pretty busy week, but we'll start off with something that is pretty interesting to me, and I wanted to get y'all's opinion on it because the Tops just recently, they have their Montgomery Club membership. Every single year they have the Montgomery Club membership, and it just came up for renewal. And as it's come up for renewal, we've started to see on social media a ton of people posting that they're not renewing their subscription, that they're not dealing with it anymore, that they're not having anything to do with it, that they're choosing not to renew anything, choosing not to keep anything. And I mean, to be honest, that's pretty shocking to me, considering, you can just buy the thing in general and sell it for a couple $1,000s right off the bat. And so for these people to be passing up the option to even just make that quick money real quick and not even get the Montgomery Club, and I mean, it's a substantial amount, as anyone that visits Twitter and Instagram can see. What do you guys think about this? Because this is interesting to me.
Yeah, ironically, I was interested in the Montgomery Club when it first came out.
Same.
I was buying a lot of the Topps online products. The Bryce Harper X back in what year was that? 2018. So I was buying a lot of those online products. And when the Montgomery Club came up, it was one of those where it's another new online product from Topps. I think I'm going to pull the trigger, and I ended up not. And then what we saw in the years to come was there was great value. And
I mean, it was brilliant. It was brilliant.
And last year, the value, like you said, like on the secondary market, people were buying extra memberships. And I've never really been interested, even though I do buy some of the Sapphires and some of those, online exclusives. I was never interested in Montgomery Club. But it's interesting how so many people who have been members and are now bowing out. I think that says a lot about where we're at with some of the benefits to the club, and what we saw 2 years ago with Finest Flashbacks. It was a $50 product, and then they raised the price to $200 or $300. That Topps has risen the prices on these online exclusives to a point where it's not really worth the flip. There's still some money to be made, but it's not. You're not going to sell a Finest Flashback box, at 6, 8, 10x what you did 2 years ago. So I think, I haven't talked to anybody that is bowing out after being a member. But I think that might have something to do with it, with the values just not what it used to be.
See, I view it as a season ticket holder's package. It's
Right.
And kind of, Drew, you kind of mentioned it. It's that thing of, it's, what is the price now? I remember it used to be $200. Is it still $200, or has it gone up?
That I have not checked because I knew I had a renewal window, so I haven't looked.
Right.
But anyone in the comments, please let us know if it has gone up. I do not believe it has gone up because I haven't seen a million people complain about it going up.
That's
so
true.
I'm assuming it hasn't because people don't complain and they complain about everything.
I think
you're probably right. So
I think it's 300 for renewal. It was, I think, 250 last year. I think it went up $50,
which is still not terrible. And then as we're talking, and you guys have mentioned, and then I said about the season ticket holder, it's that thing of spread it out. And I know people are probably a little upset that they're not getting every release like they might have been able to that first year, but you don't have to. At least to break even, you can get a few. And I'm a player collector. Bo is obviously a team collector, and I'm sure that we're similar. That, like, I don't want a whole set that's a Montgomery club necessarily, but I want my team or I want my guys,
right?
And then I sell the rest of it. So I think it just depends on how you look at it and what type of collector you are. And those guys that are strictly looking to flip and they're getting upset because they don't get every purchase, I think that's where the comments are probably coming from.
Yeah, I think you're dead on. And, we mentioned it as we were talking before the show. That's what I thought a lot of the people that were probably frustrated with it was that, at the beginning, it was a guaranteed release. You were guaranteed like up to 2 boxes of this. And now it's more of you're guaranteed a shot at this. And then it became, less and less. And there were a lot of issues where, like last year, at least they got the renewal process right this year. Last year, they just opened it up to everybody, screwed everything up, and had to start over. So kudos, Tops, you did good. This time around, you fixed that error, but your website's still shit. But you look at all of it, and I think it has a lot to do with that. I think it has a lot to do with the non-guaranteed product, and like you said, not being able to do 10x on everything. But I still look at it as the people that are choosing not to renew it. Like, if you're in it for a financial aspect, which, let's be honest, the Montgomery Club basically, if you're getting it because you're in that investor / reselling market area. There's no other reason to really get it, because you're getting, and like you said, Jason, you can just buy your individual team sets if you're a team or player collector. This isn't team or player specific. It's box specific and special specific. So this is 100% for making profit. To pass that up is just completely asinine to me. Just not even to just buy it and then sell it right away and not have to deal with it anymore.
Right. And I've seen people, not this year, but definitely last year, a couple guys that we are familiar with offer like ridiculous sums of money to kind of sublet that membership. And if you can get one and some of the prices that were being offered, like you said, it's kind of ridiculous not to accept it.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I had a membership at one time, and I had been offered countless different offers, and I sold one for thousands of dollars. And, it transferred, it moved along and everything. And that's why people are passing that up blew my mind. But the amount of backlash that I've seen on the Montgomery Club is interesting. Now, do you think this has anything to do with, and please, guys, let us know what you think this backlash and some of the speculation is, and are you going to get into the Montgomery Club this year when it opens up publicly here shortly? I'd love to know, and I'd love to hear your guys' comments, so please call in and join the show, or let us know in the comments. But is this good? Do you think this has anything to do with everything that's going on, and Topps going after more international licenses now and looking more and more like a company that's still going to try and truck on post Fanatics era? Do you think that has anything to do with it?
I think there might be some uncertainty with the issues, both with logistics, the shipping issues, which that's just happening in every facet. but there's been, shipping issues with products from Topps. Some of the Project 70 problems. There's been a lot since, and especially since, and it's probably almost your senses are heightened to it since the license news came out a few months ago, that there's probably a lot of uncertainty with, okay, what is Topps going to phone it in for the next year, the next few years? So there might be some uncertainty with, what type of value are they really going to offer in these type of products moving forward?
I definitely see what you're saying, but my only, I guess, disagreement would be if we're not changing manufacturers for a couple years, and this is only a 1-year membership, where's the concern?
Well, I think it comes in with like why they just lost the WWE license, which, let's be honest, is because they phoned it in. There was a complete disconnect between Topps and the fans of wrestling. And they phoned it in because they had a license, and they just continued to churn out products because they knew people would buy the licensed stuff. And then Panini comes and swoops in and can easily throw and easily push at them. And Panini has a million products that are perfect for wrestling, and they show that they actually understand the market, and boom, they take a license from them. And so I think people are concerned that, Topps could, some of these Montgomery sets, I have some of them literally sitting here this year from this year, and I haven't sold them or anything. I haven't really opened them past looking at the first card and saying, okay, this is, it is what it is. And I think it's a lot of people are seeing that they are starting to possibly phone it in on some outside products. And I'm a person that, to be, completely transparent, they are a sponsor of one of my shows, Let Her Rip. And one of the rules is that I'm going to be honest with everything. And with the Montgomery Club, a lot of the extras that at the beginning were really special. And there was a chance at least to get something really cool out of it, has turned into a guaranteed 15 card set of the same player that every single person's going to get. No possible parallel, no possible autograph, nothing, where it used to be a lot different. And so I think people might be scared that, they're starting to phone it in a little bit, as some of the products this year have been, let's be honest, phoned in. Wrestling in particular. That's why they lost that license, was because they just completely gave up and just threw stuff together, threw a couple of designs on, threw a logo on, and that's it. And they lost.
I was really disappointed. I'm a wrestling fan, and when they came out with the living set, I would pick up some Cubs for my collection from the living set, but was never a big fan of the set. But when they announced WWE living, I was super excited. And
I'm a wrestling fan myself, so
nice. And I bought the first 2 cards, and then cards 3 and 4 were Eric and Ivar, the Viking Raiders, and it's like, what? This is how you're starting this set off? Like, Trish Stratus and Stone Cold as cards 1 and 2, and then Eric and Ivar. And I'm not really a fan of the current WWE product. I was hoping for some more legends, some throwback to the 80s and 90s wrestlers. And, I get it. They're trying to, market the new talent, but I gave it the first 20 cards, and it was all current talent outside of, I think, Edge and who's back and Stone Cold. And I gave up, and I just threw them up all on eBay. I have them listed in my eBay store for like $6, and they just sit, and they've sat for months and months. And it's,
I've got a Roman Reigns gold refractor from Finest out of 50 that I can't sell for, like under $20. Like, it's, it's ridiculous. I completely agree with you 100%. And, I liked a lot of Topps products, but then I thought when it came to other products, they phoned it in terms of the Divas set, the Chrome set, the non-real special sets, some of the one box just encased auto sets I thought were just a little phoned in and not there wasn't any innovation on it. Every year felt the same the last couple of years, and I think that's where they kind of lost it. But we've got something in the comments here that I wanna touch on here, especially since that's what we're about, and I want to get y'all's thoughts on this as well. Sooner D says, I have zero sympathy for the flippers who whine about not getting stuff. I hate the market now because I've barely been able to buy stuff for the past 2 years or so. They basically ruined the hobby for me. I'm solely a collector. I've never sold a single card, and I'm not an investor, seeing as I don't have the capital to make any investments. So, first of all, Sooner, I do want to say, don't let flippers and everything and not being able to buy the actual product sour yourself on the whole hobby. At least that would be my advice, because there's so much more to the hobby outside of just buying the brand new product and ripping it. There's a lot of ways that you can still enjoy it, especially as someone like yourself that's a collector that wants to find stuff and get stuff, which right now it's never been easier to find or get stuff. So while it's frustrating, I understand, and I understand the frustration on every level. I totally get it. I still think, don't let it sour yourself too much and focus on that negativity, and instead focus on the awesome things that are out right now. There's more shows than ever before. There's more ways and more access to get cards than ever before. There's more trade nights than ever before, but whether it be online, Instagram, and wherever. Like, there are so many positive and great areas in the hobby. Instead of focusing on that part of it, maybe shift your focus a little bit, and like I always say on the show, adapt your collecting aspect to something that continues to make you happy. But I'll let you guys take it from here on that.
So yeah, you touched on some great points, and Dr. Beckett uses a great term, pivot. And
yes,
and you hit on it, where if you can't find what you're looking for, just pivot. And if it's not a fun hobby anymore, if you don't want to make that pivot and you're not enjoying it, a hobby is supposed to be for enjoyment. And unfortunately, maybe find another hobby.
Right.
There's product in Targets and Walmarts, and not every Target and Walmart, but I've seen a lot of pictures from throughout the country where there's a ton of product on shelves now.
Oh, yes.
That wasn't the case a year ago, and I understand the frustration a year ago. But right now, I went to Target, and there's been Topps updates sitting on the shelf for several days. I don't want Topps update, and I understand a lot of people want the new shiny, the stuff that is what flippers are taking. But when I was 8 years old, Upper Deck came out, and they were this, we all know 89 Upper Deck was this amazing product, but I was 8 years old. I couldn't afford it. 90 Leaf came out. I couldn't afford it, but I still enjoyed the hobby, even though I wanted Upper Deck and Leaf. I had to buy Topps and Donruss and Fleer. And that's just, sometimes that's the way it is. We all want Prism basketball, but sometimes we don't always get what we want.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jason, anything to add, sir?
Well, I was just going to say, kind of along the lines of him saying about the pivot, there are so many cards out there, and it's like, these things never go away, to the dismay of so many people. But like, these things never go away. And I'm sure that 90% of us have multiple projects that we're working on, whether it's teams or players or sets. And it's like, okay, well, I can't get the new stuff. And kind of to what Bo was saying about 90 Leaf and 89 Upper Deck, I enjoy buying those just as much now as I would have back then, had I not been 7, 8 years old, like he was talking about, because I couldn't buy them now, but prices have kind of, gone wherever, and I can buy a box. Whereas back then, a pack was like a week's allowance, and now a box is like, I got this, no problem. So it's that thing that, like he quoted Dr. Beckett on, pivot onto something else, start a new set, start a new project, and then in a year, 6 months, whatever, go back to what you were working on.
Yeah, no, it's all about adapting, and like you guys said, pivoting. I mean, I feel I've pivoted so much this year. Like, 'cause I mean, I'm in this in two ways, and I've been very open about this. I am a diehard collector, where I have a collection that I will never sell. My Panthers and my special Avalanche and, my East Carolina collection, not that anyone would want an East Carolina collection, but I've got one. I'm a hardcore collector, but I also do, deal in this industry quite a bit to make money as well. I do shows, things like that along those lines. So I'm in it on both sides of everything, and I understand everyone's frustration on, everything that's going on, but it is pivoted and adjusting. And I feel like I pivoted so much this year. I feel like my old classmate, Chris Johnson, up on the football field, just dancing around, trying to figure out the next way to move, the next place to go. It's just how it is and how it happens. And that would be my best advice, but definitely don't let it sour yourself and ruin yourself on the hobby. And if it does, and, there's no way to get past it, then like they said, it might, look at something else. Maybe take a look at memorabilia, maybe take a look at tickets, maybe take a look at, there's a lot of other areas. Funko's about to come out with an entire line strictly for sports. There's a lot of other avenues, to look on as well. So, it's something to look on, but definitely try and find the positive is what I always try and say, is trying to find the positive, because it's out there and it's out there a lot. All right, let's see what we got here. Canton Card Collector. Okay, we've got a Canton Card Collector saying that as food and gas prices rise, as people spend less on cards, forcing the card product prices to drop. A little bit on that real quick. Right now we've seen Walmart, Target, places like that increase prices of blasters and everything quite a bit. And everyone says it's to, just completely push flippers out. That wasn't the goal. That was a byproduct of it. The goal was to test consumer threshold. They wanted to see where consumers would buy and when they would stop. And so they've been testing that. And if you've seen, they've dropped a couple of prices, a couple of products and prices already, because they saw that threshold was too high. And so it really comes down to if you'll buy it or not. Trust me, that Bowman Platinum will be down to a little lower price when it's sitting on the shelves in a couple of months. It will be. And that's because they're testing that consumer threshold. And so, I don't know, there's no way to predict the future on this market. It's an ebb and flow market, that one market's going to be going down, three markets are going to be going up. And, you've got the basketball market right now, the football market, the soccer market that are going up great. You got the baseball market, which is kind of baseline, steady, a little lower, but you've got the vintage market that's been going up straight. Inflation is definitely going to take, going to have an effect on sports cards, absolutely. But what are your guys' thoughts on inflation and sports cards? To answer Canton here.
I think people prioritize differently, and it's hard to put everybody in that same grouping.
Right.
But I will say the prices have to change, because when you take a $20 blaster and make it $35, that's not inflation. That's like, I don't even know what the word would be. Inflation would be 20 to 23,
Right.
I collect a lot of toys, and you guys were talking wrestling figures, and I have a bunch right behind me, and they went from 20 to 22. I'm cool with that. It's upsetting, but it's $2. But when you're talking an additional $15 when it only costs 20, that's a little crazy. So I think things will change quicker than we expected.
Yeah.
But as far as he was saying about the food and gas prices, I think it'll just make people order more.
Yeah.
Or stuff like that. So
exactly. We'll and quite honestly, dude, let's be honest. There's a lot of new people in this hobby that are here to stay, because they put a lot of money, or at least for a while, that have put a lot of money into it. They're going to be putting money into this stuff no matter what, and have the money to put into it. There's a lot of new money that's in this industry that is not small market money, that, they look to be here to stay, at least for a little bit. When you start seeing them selling off portions of things, that's when you might want to take a little different look. Apparently, all we have to do is follow Bitcoin, and we can figure out the entire market from the graph I saw earlier this week, which was a crazy coincidence, but quite funny. But I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, we are seeing, gas prices are rising.
Yeah.
Logistics is the supply chain is upside down right now, and it's going to continue to be upside down for several more months, which is also not only just delaying shipping, but it's we're seeing increases in transportation costs, which is a trickle down. There's a lot of new blood in the hobby, and I think a lot of that new blood that will stay in the hobby is going to be the high end stuff. I think that's here to stay. I think what we're going to see a major drop off is a lot of people that are in the chat in us, where more casual in the hobby. If it affects those people that are just going to buy a blaster at Target, because those are the consumers that they're feeling the pinch at the gas tank. They're feeling the pinch on the increased grocery bills. They don't have the extra $20 to run to Target. So I think we're going to see a drop off, a continued drop off. We've already seen a little dip. I think that's going to continue over the next year. Is it doom and gloom for the hobby? No, because there's a lot of big money that's here to stay. And I think, there's going to be a lot of that big money. And hopefully that big money, trickles down where, some people are still buying the lower end stuff. But I do think the everyday casual collector that just hits up the shelf at Walmart for a blaster or two, I think that's where the biggest decline is going to be.
No, I think you nailed it there. But I do think besides just big money, I mean, people like myself, I'm not big money by any means, but I mean, I'm in this to stay, and I'm in this, to stay to an effect. So I think there's a massive amount of people that are in it to stay for a long time, to continue to do it. But I do agree. I think the people that are going to feel it are going to be the people that are, like you said, pinching pennies to get by, and a blaster is, they're one thing a week type deal. The very, very casual collector.
I think also kind of to piggyback off of Bo a little bit is entry point. Like your entry price point now is $35, which is a lot harder to spend casually than $20. Yeah. And I think somebody that's going to buy something for their kid, they can get, 2 toys for $35 instead of just one box of cards that might get thrown in the corner. So I think that entry point is a killer right now. And I know it's not on everything, but it is on some of them.
No, absolutely. Can't. We're going to be discussing grading here in just a few minutes, and that's absolutely an effect on it. But we'll be touching on grading here in just a few minutes, guys. But no, you're absolutely right. Entry point is absolutely one of the big key parts right now, and that's where that testing the customer threshold. I knew they were going to start doing it because I talked to the people at Anderson quite a bit for stuff for the show and things like that. I talked, which Anderson is ML Holdings, but I discuss a lot of, and I've talked a lot with them, and that's what these companies are doing. They're seeing what they can do. And like you said, when it comes down to kids and when it comes down to younger kids, if your kid's not die hard into the hobby, like my son is now, when he looks at a blaster and you're like, okay, you can get this, or you can go get 2 of those, you know what the answer is going to be every time if you're a parent. But so we'll see what happens along those lines. It's going to be interesting. I want to see what's going to happen. What's going on, Sean Germain, DR, Chris Harris. Thanks so much for tuning in. And guys, please call in and join the show. There's the link there in the comments. Please call in. We'd love to hear your opinions on anything in the hobby, including what we're going to move on to right now, which Canton kind of gave me a good segue here when he said that grading fees are high also for the average collector. And grading fees are definitely high, but we did have some grading news this week, guys, with PSA announcing, well, if you're PSA's PR and creative department, you've got to be so freaking pissed off. Because, like, all year long, you have to put out fires and work on dealing with BS. And then you finally get to make this awesome announcement that regular is returning. And then Nat Turner just goes and spoils it on an Instagram post reply. Like, you've got to be like, dude, you're working so hard. You're proud of your work. And then, boom, Nat Turner takes it away with an Instagram reply. But PSA announced that regular returning. News is it's going to be, this is not completely official, but speaking with my rep, since I do work with Walk-Off and Gem Mint, that it looks like it's going to be around $100 a card or so, and that it's going to be around 8 weeks for turnaround time. Now, Express is really fast right now. I got my Lafreniere back door to door in 16 days for Express, and not Super Express. So, I mean, they're moving quickly now. Their complete through date says it's 100% right now. But as we all know, as soon as regular opens, the floodgates are going to open and millions upon millions of cards are going to be submitted. But what are your guys' thoughts on PSA opening up regular, and how do you think this is going to affect the grading industry and other grading companies?
They need to change the name from regular to something else, because $100 is not regular for any sort of submission price. But
well, price breakdown, I think we're going to get around, I think value returns probably late December, early January. And I think we'll probably when value returns, we'll get a big price drop that'll probably return everything down to somewhat regular, but still, like you said, regular. I mean, come on, like $100, that's right. Not regular.
It's like the soda fountain drinks at a fast food restaurant where it's extra large, extra large, and soup. It's like, can I get a medium? Well, that's the extra large. Well, no, I just want a medium. So I think it's just the wording, because it's after regular. It's what value, and is there one below that?
And then economy, or what do they call? Yeah, economy.
It's just tough because, like, I just got a submission back. I sent it with a friend, so I wasn't keeping track of it myself, and I completely forgot it had been so long. And I think not that that's an issue, but it's an issue in the sense of the customer service aspect of that. Like, it shouldn't take so long that I completely forget about what I'm doing or what I'm spending my money on. And I think that's where, like, I get upset about it. I don't submit near as much as I used to or would, because of the prices and the turnaround time. And, for these guys that are spending a couple $100 on a card, that's a big risk. Yeah. Especially when you're submitting rookies, like guys blow knees left and right. And by the time you get your card back, he could be on another team, out of the game. Like, it's crazy.
I mean, not only that, with new products, you want your cards back. Right. You want them back before other things come out. You'd like to be able to you should be able to get your Donruss cards graded before Optic comes out. Yeah. Like, you should be able to do that at a regular, event. So hopefully this makes that possible. But, this is going to be the very first test for Nat Turner and Company's new operations, because he's already come out and stated that during the shutdown, they were setting up, their new plant. They've added a lot of new graders, so to speak. Logistically, everything's changed. Adding in Geniment, even though they say that they're phasing that in slowly, I still believe they're pick and choosing orders to use that service on and ones that they're not. And that's from just some data that I've seen. But whatever it is, this is going to be the first chance to see how they can handle a bum rush, a mass rush, and a consistent rush. Because no matter what, there's going to be a point where, I mean, let's be honest, there's a lot of expensive cards. I know there's millions and millions waiting to be sent in regular right now. And people are prepping a lot right now in these next 2 weeks. So, I mean, this is going to be the first chance to kind of see the new PSA and where PSA is heading. And, this is their chance to show, is anything going to change, or is this the same old PSA?
They also need to worry about what happens on the back end, because if those first groupings of orders come back in 12 weeks and not 8, the backlash is just going to get crazy. And then, even if they make it right, people are not going to believe what they're being told. They're going to always assume, well, it says 8, it'll be 16, or, whatever. So that first batch of orders really needs to be on time or at least very, very close.
Logan brought up a great point about, will they limit, where was the comment? They're going to have to limit card submission. And I know some grading companies do that. Do you think that's something PSA will put limits on? And that's kind of what I was thinking was, I think they're prepared for the onslaught that's coming, and they're prepared for, they know
they're not opening
insanity.
There's no way in hell that Nat Turner is gonna, for one, just because of I know Nat and I know his personality, he's not going to put his name behind it. He's not going to release that to then backtrack and say, hold on, we're going to have to pause and do something like that.
Right.
They know that this is coming. And so for them to know it's coming and to be ready to go shows me that Nat's plan has been put at Nat and his team. I don't want to give all the credit to Nat, even he's the face and everything of PSA, but Nat and his team, their logistics, their operationals, they are all in now. They believe in what they're doing. And if it gets bad enough and it gets big enough, I guarantee you that Genamint software gets used a lot more, no matter what they're saying at this day and moment on how much they're using. I guarantee you it gets used a lot more, but they say they're ready. But Nat would not start this and then limit submissions. PSA will not do that with that at all. Anyway, let's see. Here we go. Under 15 from the 51 million degree card slab prices should go.
714,000 is the answer, Logan. 714,000 comes cards behind them.
Okay, Logan says he disagrees. He says if they don't limit, they will be back to a card tsunami again. So do you guys agree with what I'm saying, or do you guys agree with what Logan's saying? Because I personally think, like you said, Jeremy, if they start off right off the bat with 12 weeks instead of now we don't know if it's 8 officially, but that's what has been told by some pretty people in the know. Is that it's probably going to be around 8 weeks. If they start hitting 12 and 13 and 14 weeks right out the gate, then it's the same old PSA. Right. But that's why I'm saying, Logan, this is the old PSA. You're right. The way they used to do it, 100%, they'd be backed up in a heartbeat. We've seen it a million times. This is a new PSA. This is the first chance we've gotten to see with this new team in place do something. So, we've got to assume something's different. And there you go with Chris. I love it. I do agree. They are limiting by charging $100 a card.
And it's the truth.
That's a great way to limit. And it is the truth, because regular will be back down to probably 50 or 60 here soon.
I'm going to go with Logan. I think it's going to be the card tsunami. I don't think there's any way that you can actually prepare to open something like this back up when it was as crazy as it was. But also agree with Chris Harris. They are limiting by charging $100 per card, but they were also limiting when they were charging, $200, $300 a card, and it felt like they couldn't get caught up forever. So it's just, I don't think anybody can accurately predict what's about to happen.
I do want to point out that I'm not disagreeing that there's not going to be a card tsunami. I think there's going to be a million. I think there's going to be millions of cards sent. I just think that this is something that they're going to be more equipped to handle than they were in the past. And so it's going to be interesting to see. And, one way or another, we're going to see. But do you guys think, in the last 6 to 8 months, that PSA shutdown did one thing, and that made a lot of other grading companies, get a lot more stuff. Unfortunately, it also made 8 million grading companies pop up, to the point where 3-letter acronyms for grading companies literally ran out. There were no more available. But, do you think that this takes business away from them? Because regular in value is kind of where a lot of those companies were targeting. That's where they were looking to take the customers, and them PSA opening regular back up earlier than expected. I didn't expect it until February or March, honestly. I thought they were going to wait quite a bit and get really caught up. But it surprised me. But, do you think this takes away business from those companies? And, how do you think that affects those type of companies?
Absolutely. And it's going to affect the newer Johnny come latelys the most.
Right.
We're going to see a lot of those, be shut down by the, heck, maybe by the end of this year, but, by the end of next year, some of the stronger, more veteran companies, they're going to take a hit just because they were the only game in town over the last 6 months. I think with that being said, some of these other companies also gained new customers where, some of the customers hey, I like this better than my experience with PSA. I'm going to stick with Beckett, SGC, HGA, CGC, whatever. So I think there's going to be a little bit of both, but ultimately I think PSA opening back up is going to hurt. And it will take customers away, and some of the smaller, newer companies will close up shop.
No, absolutely. And real quick, Canton, what you're saying about but PSA raised their prices. Here you go. These 2 stacks right here were all cards that were going to be sent to PSA until they raise their prices. So I get you. But what were you about to say, Jason?
I think it's the thing of the people that want PSA weren't going to try the other brands.
Right.
I think there is definitely a PSA loyalty that I'll pay $100, I'll pay $300, whatever. I want my, Jordan rookie to be in a PSA holder because it is, that landmark slab. These other guys that are, lower end collectors that are trying SGC, FCG, all these other brands, they're trying them because they're $30 and they're not sold completely on it has to be PSA. So I think it's that split between the high end collector and the low end where they don't cross too much. They kind of stay in their own lane. You're always going to have the ones that do, but I don't think there's too much contamination between the two. So I think you either stayed and didn't stray or you were low end and you tested a few out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And hey, Logan Ward just dropped the statement of the bombshell of the year. All of his eggs are in the PSA basket. Logan, we know that considering you own like the greatest PSA collection in the world, at least in terms of their registry. But yeah, I agree for the next couple of years. I'm going to be interested. I think, obviously it's PSA. It's going to be people are, this does open the door for me to send in tons of cards that I wasn't going to send in before. It does open the door quite a bit. That $50 difference opens the door for quite a few different cards for me to send in. So there are some that I can't wait to get regular back going on. But, and eventually they are going to lower their prices. But, I think it's really, like you said, Jason, people might have tried some stuff out, but they're going to stay with PSA. I'm more interested in 3 to 4 years down the line when Fanatics starts to jump into the game, because they're grading. I mean, that one of their owners is one of the majority owners. What up, John? One of their majority owners is an owner in CSG. CSG just announced that they're changing their label. If CSG can come up with a label that people accept in any way, shape, or form, their slabs are already the prettiest to look at in terms of plastic. They're the clearest, the nicest, a little different feeling, but look gorgeous. I think CSG is going to end up being the grading company for Fanatics, and so that's what I'm interested in. I think it's going to be PSA all the way until we get to the point where Fanatics brings out their grading aspect side of things, which is going to be CSG. But we shall see. So we've got about 15 minutes left in Hobby Hotline Overtime, the new show every single Tuesday at 9 p.m. live, just like Hobby Hotline. We want you guys to call in and join the show. So if you have any questions or comments about PSA, the Montgomery Club, or anything, then call in and join the show. I've got the link right there for you. And we would love to hear from you. But, guys, I've got a question that I wanted to bring up to you guys that I didn't bring this up beforehand, but I got a question that I've been noticing lately, and I just wanted to get your guys' opinion on it. There's a lot of movement. How does that affect my... Now that I don't know, John, I don't know how it's going to affect your order from October 2020. I got one from October 2022, so maybe ours are chilling together. Maybe they're holding Hobby Hotlines hostage because we're talking about them. I don't know. We'll find out soon. But there's been a lot of movement in the NFL market lately. The NFL market's going crazy. But there's been a ton of movement, obviously, in the quarterbacks, the big quarterbacks between Mahomes, Herbert, Burrow, blah, 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 blah. All the big quarterbacks, all the legends, all that. But there's also been a massive, massive movement and an increase in price on non-quarterback players. Star position players are finally starting to get some love in the NFL. You're looking at Cooper Kupp cards, which were one of the highest rising cards of the week. You're looking at tons of different non-rookies and rookies, but Cooper Kupp being an example that sticks out off the top of my head. Jamar Chase is getting incredible numbers for his stuff. Have we reached a point where there's so many collectors and people, or collectors and investors involved in football, and there's just not enough quarterbacks and not enough cards that people wanted those quarterbacks, that now we're going to start going towards finally starting to recognize someone besides the quarterback in the NFL?
I think to an extent, yes, but I also think that for so many years, the other positions have been what many in the hobby would consider undervalued. So I think a lot of people that may have had their focus was on quarterbacks were looking at the prices of non-quarterbacks and saying, hey, there's some great value to be had. And I think that's driving up the price, where people are taking notice that these running backs and wide receivers and star defensive players, you can have those pennies on the dollar compared to the hot rookie quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm. I think it goes to what we talked about earlier. It's that pivot. If you're a Stafford fan or a Rams fan, let's just say Stafford stuff might be too expensive, but then you go to Cooper Kupp, okay, I can afford more of this guy. I can get 4 for the price of 1. And to me, that's kind of how I view collecting. It's like quantity over quality sometimes.
Right.
I think that's a lot of it. But going back to the one I always remember, 2008 Topps Football had the James Harrison rookie card.
Yeah.
But it was like 3 or 4 years after he, was a rookie. And it just kind of shows how the manufacturers have always viewed defense, or not the oddball positions, but not the money positions, I guess you could say.
Oh, no, 100%. I agree completely. I think it's going to be, I've been wanting this forever. I've been pushing for this forever. I thought it was asinine that we're literally collectors and hobbyists, investors, people like that are some of the biggest sports fans in the world. We're the ones that do know who these people are. We are the ones that know these guys and know they're good, know they're amazing, know that they're awesome. Yet for some reason, we still didn't want them. It never made sense to me. And you're really starting to see that movement now. Justin Jefferson, another example, skyrocketing up the list. I mean, and you're seeing it on speculation as well. You're seeing it on rookies that are completely unproven, that are sitting on the bench, that are waiting for a long time. You're looking at guys that Javonte Williams as an example, starting to get some touches, starting to get that momentum, starting to get that full-time playing, but slowly inching in. His cards are moving up quicker than his carries are. And I mean, it's that stuff didn't happen before. Maybe with one person a year, like Gurley, his rookie year, and then everyone else, maybe one person a year, but not to the extent of second, third, fourth year players, of position players. Have we ever seen so much movement on tertiary players? And I hate calling them that to quarterbacks, but that's how they've always been viewed in the hobby.
And I mean, I don't remember anything like this, and I don't think anybody could have predicted it. We've been in this for so long. Football cards have been around for so long, and it started, in the 90s and early 2000s, where there were multiple sets. There were plenty of opportunities for these, you said, tertiary guys. So it's not a new thing, but it's just we're in a different time with the hobby, and people are, I hate to say it again, but they're pivoting. They're looking for other opportunities, and it's, let's go to that second, third, fourth tier guy. Pat McAfee was one. His rookie card was crazy high for a kicker, but there weren't many options. It should be,
because he's a badass. He's the greatest. Right. He's the greatest announcer, period. His talk show is great, but he is by far the greatest wrestling announcer ever, and I mean that in a sarcastic way, just because he's freaking hilarious. I love him, but McAfee is a prime example. But
DR mentioned the retired non-football. I mean, I'm a big bargain box guy. When I go to card shows, you'll find me sitting at the 25-cent and dollar boxes, and I pulled, a stack of JJ Watt out of the 25-cent box. And even though I think he's out for the season again, they're still selling for $5 a pop. So, I dig through those bargain boxes, because you can find, because you won't find any quarterbacks in there, rookie cards, but you'll find some defensive guys that have some good value, and especially running backs and wide receivers also.
I see
people. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
I was just going to say, I think people sometimes forget that defensive players also make it to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And it's always quarterbacks and wide receivers, and it's look at Butkus, and JJ Watt will most likely be there, if not with his brother. You know what I mean? It's just people forget that defense matters just as much as offense. It just never gets the credit.
Yep. No, absolutely. And, I think DR is doing something brilliant right there, because if you look at right now where we are, if you look at the players that are Hall of Fame eligible in, let's say, 2022 to 2026, and then you go back and look at those players' rookie years, secondary years, that was before production ramped up again. That was still in the early era of production, where you had multiple licenses, Topps and Panini, but they weren't putting out a ton of products. It was the same still total number, because the NFLPA always controlled that. But those guys don't have as many autos as the others. Those guys don't have as many rookies that carry value as people today do. And so those type of players going into the Hall of Fame, not having a ton of stuff compared to nowadays and, like it used to be, I think that's a brilliant strategy in a market that's just going to get bigger as football. You've seen the ratings. Football in the United States, people might be saying, is going down. That's because they like to ignore online. But overseas and internationally, football is getting bigger than it has ever been. And the football market is getting bigger overseas than it has ever been. And so that's a brilliant move, DR. And I think that's something that a lot of people, that if you're prospecting on people like that, retired people that are going into the Hall of Fame outside of the quarterback positions, you're going to be getting them, like you said, dirt cheap. There's some great cards and a chance for some awesome return in the future.
Well, and you can prospect on Hall of Fame inductions. Like you can see 2 and 3 years ahead of who's eligible for the ballot in all the sports. And it's like, it's almost an educated guess type of prospecting, where baseball is such a wild card, in general. But when you see a ballot of 20 players, we'll say, okay, these 5 or 6 are guarantees. There's a couple that are on the edge, and these guys don't have a chance. But even those guys that don't have a chance, get it for $1. What are you really missing out on? Take that chance of, like what Bo said, these quarter boxes. What are you really losing out on if that guy doesn't make it to where you want him to be?
Exactly. What you're losing out on is just recouping funds when you're collecting. So I mean, that's part of collecting anyway. You're spending money to collect. Let's see. John from Sports Card Nation, aka Mr. Newman, who will initially, but people want their cards, they get buried again, and they will people in anointed 1A. Not sure. I think he's watching the episode from a little behind. So welcome, John. Appreciate you tuning in and joining the show. But guys, we are wrapping up. Let's see. I also love watching both Antonio Gates and Steven Jackson. They 2 great examples. Antonio Gates, a guy that is going to go down as one of the best tight ends to ever play the game. He's going to be one of those guys that when his cards are vintage, I could see him being quite valuable, because it's all going to be about where your records were when you ended. And he's one of those guys. Champ Bailey, like Canton said. Tons of players. Steve Smith for Carolina, I think he's going into the Hall of Fame. Luke Kuechly, I think he goes, even with the short career. The things he did were incredible. You look down the list of just tons of different players you can speculate on that you can get stuff for incredibly cheap right now. But seeing the football market finally get some attention and people outside of quarterbacks getting the attention is awesome to see from me. But guys, that's going to wrap up episode 99 of Hobby Hotline and the second week of Hobby Hotline Overtime. And once again, Overtime is going to be coming to you every single Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's exactly like, as you can see, it's exactly like Hobby Hotline. We talk, we hang out with you guys, answer your questions, want your calls, your opinions, and everything else all the time. We live and thrive on you. The show runs on you guys in the hobby. So, it's going to be coming to you live every single Tuesday at 9 p.m. This weekend, we've got an awesome panel coming up. Of course, we've got our regular show Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern as well. We've got a great panel coming up, so make sure to tune into that as well. But, Bo, welcome to the team, my man, and Jason. It is great to have you guys aboard the Hobby Hotline team.
Thanks. This was fun. Good stuff.
Yep. Hey, man. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, you guys have a great evening, and we will see you guys. Well, another 3. We'll see you guys on Saturday, and we'll talk to you soon. Y'all have a great evening. Peace.
See ya.